Good evening from Vietnam. Good morning to you, Scott. Thanks a lot for spending your morning joining our Inside Sharing and share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, we want to say thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Scott, I really look forward to seeing you in Vietnam in November, the late of November. So make sure that you put in your busy schedule time to see my family, okay? Not only me.
Okay. Maybe you could pick me up at the airport and then we'll make sure it happens. No, just
Absolutely,
kidding.
absolutely. Oh, we can, absolutely. Hey, Scott, in our culture, and you've been spending a lot of time in Asia. You know, it's very honor for our audience to have you to do a little introduction about who you are and the works that you are doing. Can you do that first, please?
Sure. I think the best way is probably to start with how I got into the speaking industry and then what took me to Asia. I started in 1984. And I know I don't look that old, but I ran into, at the time I was president of a sales organization called Sales Professionals. It's a sales networking group, and Cabot Roberts spoke to our group one morning. Cabot Robert is the founder of the National Speakers Association, and on the way to the airport that day, he told me I had a unique style and I should be a professional speaker. At the time, I didn't realize he said that to everybody. So before I realized that, it was too late. I quit I quit my job I was in sales and marketing at the time, and quit my job and went to work for a professional speaking company. And in 1985, I became a full-time professional speaker. So for the last 39 years, it's hard to believe, that has been my profession. I am one of those rare breeds that started as a professional speaker before I had much to say. um, but then I started doing a lot of research, and the market defined me as a motivational humorist. So sometimes I'm introduced as a comedian, which then you're in trouble, because as a comedian, your sole purpose is to make the audience laugh. As a motivational humorist, you have a way out. So if they laugh, it's humor. If they don't, it's motivation. So there's an escape route. Oh, you didn't laugh? Okay, you should be motivated then. Anyway, so I started before really the internet, and where you could create a social media footprint. So I really was kind of a jack of all trades at the time. I did a lot of sales training. I did a lot of after dinner humor type programs. I did for many years a humor in the workplace program, and then I worked with the Singapore government for 20 years. A little later in my career, starting in 1999, did a program called How Do Leaders and Managers Engage Staff with Humor. But most of my stories start with a woman. So in the late 90s, I was doing a program called What's So Funny About Being Single on a cruise ship. And I had my cabin steward was from the Philippines. She had just graduated from hotel restaurant marketing school, and I called my after I had never really had that much exposure to Asia at that point. That was 1998. Called my friend Abe. I said, hey, who was doing some programs with the Singapore government. I said, I think I've fallen in love. Can you introduce me to your client at the Singapore government, which would give me an excuse to go to Asia to visit this young lady. So he did, but it took me about a year for my first program with the Singapore government, which led to about 20 years of working with them. And then but by the time I got over there, she was married, had a kid on the way, but I discovered Asia. So that's how I got over to Asia. And then I served as president of the National Speakers Association here in America, right after Mark Sanborn. I know you know Mark. And so we had it was wonderful for us to serve back-to-back terms, or for me to follow Mark for that, because we're very close friends. And so we really had a chance to work on some projects together. And my biggest project for the year was the Global Speakers Summit in Singapore. We had 300 speakers from around the world come to Singapore, which really opened up uh, a bit much bigger market for speakers from around the world to come to Southeast Asia. And I've been in that space ever since. So I speak a lot, but in 2008, I founded Together We Can Change the World with a good friend of mine, Janice Stanfield. So now, fast forward, I'm covering a lot of years in a short amount of time. But so now we do 2 speaker tours a year where we bring speakers and authors from around the world to Southeast Asia to raise money for our vision or our mission, which is to educate and empower less fortunate children and women. So you can ask me any questions along the way, but that's in a nutshell, I guess. That's how I got over to Asia, and but I have changed my brand along the way. In I guess it was 2000 and maybe 2012, I started writing books on how celebration impacts productivity and performance. So and the purpose of that, so it's more of a how to create a happier, healthier culture, basically. But the reason for doing that was I wanted to have a calling card, those books, and speak to, so that I was able to get into really just about any HR conference around the world. But mostly for me, for Asia, so then I could partner with promoters of these conferences to bring in my friends and global thought leaders, so that our Together We Can Change the World tours would have more credibility, and we could raise more money for the causes that we serve. And now we have over 20 causes in 6 countries, and we're coming to Vietnam for the very first time with quite a stellar group of speakers, many from Colorado. So that's how we started this program, that I'm on my way. And so I look forward to meeting you face to face in just about a month's time.
And now just about a month time. So the event in Vietnam is happening in April of next year, right?
Correct. So we're recording this in mid-October. So what is that? About 6 months. 6 months from now. Okay. Yeah, even less than that. Right.
Okay. Scott, you have a phenomenal career journey that you introduced to us in about 5 minutes and 30 seconds. It's not fair for our audience. All right. So we're going to dive deeper into your journey, and let's start by traveling time. Would you like to travel time with me?
Oh, let's do it. You have like a little time capsule or spaceship or something, or?
Yeah. Let's go. If we have a door, and let's travel through that door. Okay, imaginative door. So when I was little, I wanted to become an astronaut. I wanted to be an astronaut so that I can jump in different planets. Seems so cool, but life didn't give me any chance to do that. Except recently, I was the first Asian to interview General Charlie Duke, the youngest man ever walk on the moon. On the Apollo mission 16, and so for you, when you were little, what was your dream about the future works that Scott going to do?
When I was young, I looked up to my father and my grandfather. My dad was in the real estate business in the fast food industry, and my grandfather had a printing company. So I got a real estate license when I was in college, and so I was going to go into work with my father. That was one good possibility, and then the other was to go to work for the family business, which was a printing company in Colorado. So I always figured I would probably, I'm very close to my family, would work in one of those, and I did. I went to work with my dad for a little while. Became the marketing director of a company called Duff Smorgasbord. It was a all-you-can-eat restaurant, and so I was their marketing director, and then I went to work with my mom's side with the printing company, and that's where I was when I at the ripe old age of 24, when I was with sales professionals, a side sales networking organization, where we had the motivational speaker every Tuesday, and that's how I got into professional speaking. So, but as a kid, I just figured it was probably going to be real estate or one of the working for one side of the family, and I had the opportunity before I became a professional speaker to do both.
Wow. So I think that is so on that event, how did you get into the event that you met the president of the NSA, and that's where he paved the way for you, the dream for you, the seed for you to become a motivational speaker yourself. What happened on that day?
Well, so the sales professional organization, it was actually called SWAP,
Wow.
salesman with a purpose, but it's a sales professional. So we had there was 10 different chapters in Denver at the time. So I had heard Cavett Roberts speak at our sister club, the Downtown Denver Club, on a Monday afternoon, and was so impressed with his talk that I went up to him afterwards. I said, "Hey, I am the president of the Southeast SWAP, and we meet tomorrow morning at 7:30. When are you leaving?" He goes, "I'm leaving about 9:30." I said, "If I picked you up at your hotel and drove you to the airport afterwards, could you speak to our group?" And actually, it was probably a little later than 9:30 we was leaving, because our meeting didn't end till 9, so it would have had to be probably 11. Anyway, for those of you doing math on the program, I want to be accurate, more accurate. So I picked him up at his hotel. He came to our meeting, and as president of the group, I would always start off the meeting with a poem. I was known as the SWAP poet. So I would, for example, it would be like, you can be 33 years old and over the hill. You can be 90 going on 29. Age isn't living a matter of years. It's only a state of mind. So take care of yourself and think young. Make love and laughter part of the plan, because the best thing in life is to die young, as old as you possibly can. So I would write a poem every week, and then at the time, I would summarize the speaker's talk in a humorous poem and read it for the speaker as a tribute to this when they were finished with their talk. And Cavett had a lot of humor, and it was a great speech, so it was easy to write a poem for him, and that's why he thought that I had a unique style. But like I said, he was the world's the best cheerleader in the world for the National Speakers Association, because he believed in it so much. So he became my first mentor. I feel so grateful that we talk about Cavett. We have a day every year called In the Spirit of Service, but it's really in the spirit of Cavett, because he was our founder, and he instilled the abundance philosophy in me. And for speakers, which now we have 17 member associations. I think that's a number. We may be up a few by the time your listeners hear this. 17 associations within the Global Speakers Federation, and we all live by the motto that let's share our trade secrets. Let's help our fellow speakers become better, because we're not competitors, because really competition or collaboration is really today's competition, or competition is today's collaboration. So if we help each other get better, we increase the size of the pie, because there will always be enough to go around. So instead of coming from a scarcity philosophy, we have an abundance philosophy. And that has, having that philosophy has led to a wonderful 39-year career for me.
Wow. And did you ever ask him why did he decide to take you under his wing and be your mentor?
I just didn't give him a choice. I said, here's what you're going to be doing for the next couple of years until I become a success. So he worked on me till he died, and then and I'm still looking to become a success. Yeah, he was such a cheerleader, and I was, being a young kid at the time, and just having a lot of passion, and I loved his philosophy. I think we connected because we're both connectors, really. And I think as you would find in your journey that we like attracts like, and we love to spend time with people that are going to that like to drink our Kool-Aid, or that really that can spread the word, in this case, the word of abundance, and really, making the world a better place to live. And so, so I was a great cheerleader for that as well, and I have been my entire life.
So Scott, your dream when you were younger was either become a real estate or working in the printing company as family business, right? And the moment you met him, you changed the career trajectory completely. So what did the people next to you say about that movement?
I'm laughing because it's my mom
Uh,
at the time. Well, she's still my mom, but she called my friends, my closest friends that I grew up with, and she said, "You got to talk to Scott. He's lost his mind. Here he has this wonderful opportunity with the family business, and he's doing well. He can sell. So can you talk to him? I mean, what is he thinking? He can become a professional speaker. What does he know? Um, most people thought I was fairly crazy to do this, but I didn't have kids at the time. Oh, still don't have kids now that I think about it. So there was not a huge risk. Yeah, I made a little bit of money in sales at the time. So I went out and created a career, and eventually my mom became my biggest fan. It just took a little while because at first it did seem like that it was kind of a crazy move. You don't see too many speakers that just start out as professional speakers. Usually they come from journalism or politics or success in business, but I had none of that. So yeah,
so
it was a
so what message did you talk to yourself for you to quit the job and go with that passion?
I mean, fortunately, my self-talk has always been very positive. I believed I would be successful. I come from I was lucky. I come from a lucky gene club. My dad was a successful entrepreneur. My other side of the family was as well. So it was already instilled in me that that we could have what we wanted, that we could create. We make positive choices. So the self talk was just positive. That hey, what's the best way to make this thing happen? And in the speaking business, and I think in most businesses, it comes down to two things. It's, do you have a relevant message, or do you have a product that people want to hear? And what's the best way to get in front of the right prospects so that they can take advantage of whatever your product or service is? So it was a pretty simple formula at the time. It's speaking business has become more complicated with social media and it's we've moved up. When I started, we were in the infancy stage of professional speakers, pretty much, and now we're in the mature cycle. So it's a lot more difficult today, but the principles still are the same. And so I just focus on those two things: creating a relevant message that people want to hear, and then I just got out. I majored in marketing, and I love talking to people. I'm an extrovert, so it was easy to form the relationships, and with that abundance philosophy of you give before you get, and you just ask yourself the question, what can I do for others, as opposed to what's in it for me. Even though your prospects are always the WIIFM, what's in it for me philosophy. You have to make sure that you look through their eyes when you're selling anything. But if you could really put yourself in another person's shoes and say, okay, what do they consider value? How can I give as much as I possibly can? And then the law of reciprocity kicks in, that people want to help you, and it's a pretty simple life philosophy, and it works. So
Beautiful. So bring us back to those days, 39 years ago again, okay? So describe a typical day for Scott back then, for him to learn those two simple things to become a professional speaker.
So a typical day would be early in the morning, getting on the phone and dialing for dollars. Joe Charbonneau, who's a good mentor, just that was a professional speaker. He had a formula that you made a certain amount of calls a day, and I'm not going to be able to remember the formula, but it was basically, if you make 13 calls a day and you connect with 5 people, you're going to have one interested prospect or whatever. So it really was a lot of, in those days, my goal would be to send out 5, what were they, cassette tapes at the time? I think they may have been cassette tapes, or yeah, I think they were. No, you know what? They were They were the VHS tapes. Because I'm
Oh.
thinking back to my storeroom. Oh my gosh, yeah, they were.
It's a good time
Yeah,
traveling,
the
right?
old. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for taking me on this journey. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm thinking back to my storeroom was full of these VHS tapes. So my goal would be to send out, 5 of these tapes a day. And that's really, if you look at sales, it's and as I've always said, you send out as many ships as you can, and the ships start to sail back. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. So if I could just be on the phone, and then of course you hone your skills as you go along, and it takes a fair amount of calls, especially from a young kid who doesn't really have all that much to say, but if he can make you laugh a bit and think of a few ideas, then that's kind of how I started, and then hopefully today I have a little bit more wisdom. They say that with age comes wisdom, but sometimes age comes alone. But hopefully, in my case, there's a little bit of wisdom that I can share today.
So tell us, who was the first officially paid client,
My
and how
first,
did you feel about it? Yes.
my very first client was the Women's Bond Club of Colorado. They paid me $100. I'm very excited, obviously to get my first one, and of course, a little bit of fear that I wouldn't be worth my $100 at the time. But yeah, so that was my first, and then I went into the youth market. So I was young and could relate to youth at the time, and so I started speaking in high schools and did a lot with vocational groups like the Future Business Leaders of America high school vocational group, Future Farmers FFA, DECA. I had won in uh, the first place in the nation in restaurant marketing at the time, and so that was an easy path to take as well. So.
Wow. Wow. And until when you realized that the whole investment got paid off?
I think one of these days it's gonna pay off. I think maybe I'm hoping a week from Tuesday it's gonna be my is when I realize. Success. It depends on how you define success. Success is doing what my definition of success is really is doing what you love to do with the people that you love to do it with, making a difference in the world, and going to the places that you love to go to. So I've always done what I love. You never work a day in your life if you love what you do. So I've been a creator ever since I started my career. I used to teach a course called Technologies for Creating, which is based on the law of structural tension. If you know what your vision is, and you hold your vision in your mind's eye, and you're honest about your current reality, your path of least resistance will take you toward your vision. So I've always been driven by that principle of what do you want to do, and then basically how do you create the opportunities to do it. And a lot of times the process evolves organically, just because you hold that vision so tight that you know what you want. And so success, how I define it, has always come easy to me because I've defined what it is that I want and then gone out and got it. So.
Alrighty. So next question is about the NSA. So when did you become the president of the NSA?
2004, 2005 was the year I served.
So that is after you went to Singapore.
Yes, I had been. Yes, I had been by that time in Singapore for about 6 years, 5 or 6 years. Yes.
All righty. So tell us, what made you to again travel to Singapore at the beginning?
So yeah, it started as I told you with Maria was her name that she was the catalyst. We
Maria.
still yeah, we're still in touch today. I mean, it's fun to. I always blame her, give her credit for. I said, you may have broken my heart at the time, but you launched a career in Asia. So, yeah, I got involved. Well, when we were planning it was pretty early on in the growth of the Global Speakers Federation. And APSS had just been around for 1 year at the time. They weren't members of the Global Speakers Federation. Neither was Malaysia Association of Professional Speakers or the Professional Speakers Association of South Africa. So all three of those associations came into the Global Speakers Federation as we put together the Global Speakers Summit in Singapore. But that was I had been to a conference in 1999 with Tim Gard and Steph Duplessis and Ed Scannell was there, and it was this meeting professional conference. It was an organization called SIMPA, the Connected International Meeting Professionals Association, and they had a speaker showcase. And it was basically celebrating the industry with a speaker showcase. And I thought, and the conference itself was a disaster for a lot of reasons. Starting with, they promised 300 meeting planners, and I think about 5 showed up. But the idea of this celebration of the meetings industry and the speakers being a part of that, and I had started in 1988, I became president of the National Speakers Association of Colorado. And one of the things I did that year is I started what's called the Meetings Industry Council. And then we ended up kicking off about 30 of them around the United States. And ours, how many years is that? 36 years later, we're still very viable. In fact, we bring in about 1,200 people for our big event every year. So I was already an industry guy. When I was the chapter leadership chair under Tom Winninger, who was president at the time, and his theme for the year was sculpting the industry. And so I helped all these chapters really become part of instead of just being part of the speaking industry, becoming part of the meetings industry. So when I was in this program in Bangkok, that's where the seed was planted for this Global Speaker Summit. I was like, wow, let's celebrate the industry. So we did a showcase along with this first Global Speaker Summit. We had 300 speakers. We involved a lot of HR directors, a lot of meeting professionals, promoters. And so it really was the first Global Speaker Summit was a big celebration of the industry, and so it was, and that just fueled my desire even more for global speaking. And but the market has come fairly easy for me. They seem to understand my humor in Asia. Obviously, over time, you hone in a little bit to make sure that you're connecting. But yeah, so it's been a wonderful market. So helping grow the global pie has been very special to me. And then also, making a good living in Asia. Part of my revenue coming from Asia, which has led to a lot of speaking in the Middle East, because they come to conferences in Asia, and then it leads to speaking in Dubai and Kuwait and Bahrain and Brunei. So some of those areas as well. And then, eventually the mission has then led to wanting to make a bigger difference. Really, my philosophy is if God gives you resources, then we need to share those resources, and we need to do what we can to better the planet while we're still on the planet. So these days I'm moving a little. Yeah, I want to do 20 paid speeches a year is all, and I spend probably 80% of my time on the foundation these days. So that's where I've chosen to spend
together we can change the world, right? All right.
Yeah.
So let me bring you to that moment for you to decide that 2008. But I will skip that a little bit. I will want to go to the next one first. So you said that in 2011 you start to write your books.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I mean,
and
right.
how?
Well, no, I had written books ahead of that time. That's when I
Uh,
changed. I had written some books. My books, I had written a book called Happily Ever Laughter, Using Humor for a Change,
uh,
Punchlines, Pitfalls, and Powerful Programs. So my books were more based on humor until 2011 when I changed my brand to really the employee experience slash also customer experience.
all
So
right.
that's when I made a major change to get into the employee engagement space, if you will.
I got it. So why you? What made you decide to go in that to that change?
Yeah, I was on a I was the strategy really was, how can I make together we can change the world more viable? How can I, the model of together we can change the world, maybe that's a good place to start, is we serve two masters. I mean, the number one mission of Together We Can Change the World is really to give sustainable skills to less fortunate ladies that have been marginalized, that have been victimized in some way, or just come from a very poor community, to give them the skills to where they can support their families, to build confidence, competence, and character, to really be self-sustaining, confident members of their community and really help their community. So
Mm,
what we've learned in the 16 years we've been around is computer centers, and teaching them computer skills is really the best way. They may not have drinking water at home necessarily, but if they have an internet connection, they can get on and compete and do graphic design, and they can learn marketing skills and video editing and that type of thing. Um,
mm,
so that's really the number one goal, is to really serve these causes. And when we come to Vietnam, we'll be working with the May Tom Center in Ho Chi Minh City, and Viet Harvest, which is, I don't know if you know of the wonderful organization where they take food from the hotels and restaurants, and they serve it to those in need, orphanages and women's shelters and those kind of things,
mm,
kind of places. So that's the number one. But the other thing is also to help uh, global speakers bring their brand to Asia. So
mm,
we put them in front of leadership conferences of anywhere between 100 and 600 people. Is our largest conference that we've done in Malaysia, so that they have a chance to spread their wisdom, but with realizing that the part of our mission as professional speakers is to give back, is to really make the world a better place. At
mm,
the Global Speakers, we just had the Global Speakers Summit in Bali, Indonesia. It's the first time it's come back to Asia in 20 years, and it was a very special time for me because Janice Stanfield, my co-creator in Together We Can Change the World, she wrote a song for the first Global Speaker Summit called "I Cannot Do All the Good That the World Needs, but the World Needs All the Good That I Can Do." So she
wow.
performed that she performed that at well, she started with that. The first three Global Speaker Summit, she performed that song that she had written for the first Global Speaker Summit, and we
Oh,
did it again with dancers from an orphanage that we just built a computer center for in Bali, Indonesia. So that was pretty special to be able to kick off the Global Speakers Summit that way this year. So
wow. Then I'm curious. Did you end the conversation, the event by a poet?
I'm sorry, by
Did you end the event by sharing a poet, a
oh,
poem?
they didn't invite me back up, but no. Yeah, it's fun. I used to write song parodies and poems. I don't do it quite as much as I used to do it, but thank you for the reminder that I should start or continue to do that. That's something I do love.
Yeah. What if you do it in April of next year when you come to Vietnam and start the event by a poet, or end the event by one, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I spoke in Singapore last week,
Mm,
um, and the my buddy Shep Hyken was telling me about this app called Suno, or Suno.com, Suno.com, where basically you put in up to 200 words on a person or a situation, and it'll write a song for you, and it'll have a original beat and tune. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I don't even need to write anymore. So I did this in the program for the general manager of this hotel, and it was very, very fun, you know, especially because if those 200 words get into their idiosyncrasies and imperfection, and you poke a little bit of fun, those songs are really very special. So
easy word now, huh? So was Shep with
yeah.
you, or you just went to Singapore alone?
No, Shep. No, yeah, we were just chatting. Actually, at the time, I was in Singapore, and Shep was actually, where was he? He was in Doha for Customer Service Week, is where he was. But Shep and I'll see Shep before I see you. Actually, Shep and I are doing a program for at the CX Summit in Malaysia. So I'll be there with Shep, and where I was just chatting with Shep a little earlier this morning that we're looking to do a program for the Malaysia Association of Professional Speakers. We hope that comes together, but while we're both in Malaysia. So yeah, Shep and I are good buddies for many years.
Beautiful, beautiful. If you guys travel together to Malaysia or Singapore, so let us know. So I would love to fly there to see you guys both in person. Also, I interviewed him about years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, the dates of the conference, Shep flies into Malaysia on the November 12th. So the conference is the 13th and 14th of November in Malaysia.
I November 12th, I have planned book already for two friends traveling from Canada. I wouldn't be able to do, but yeah, they're always next time, right, Scott? So
Bet.
I want to bring you and Janice back into 2008. And even earlier than 2008, because the co-founder of the program, Together We Can Change the World, her name is Janice, right?
Jana Stanfield.
Okay, yeah. How do you spell the name?
Jana. Used to be Janice, but she changed it to Jana.
So Jana, no. You decided to do that. Oh, hey, Scott. Why did you both decide to form this nonprofit organization?
So like most things in life, it's an evolution. We had been, I at the time had I think like 2000, well, it would have been 2007, was speaking for Alcatel-Lucent in Cambodia, and they had the senior VP at the time had brought their 100 top leaders from Asia Pac to Phnom Penh. It was when the dot-com bust was happening, and all the tech companies' stock prices were plunging, and he brought his 100 top leaders to say, look, there's a lot more important things in the world than falling stock prices, and we spend a day in the killing fields in Phnom Penh, and then we spend a day building houses, and I was like, wow. And I just, something profoundly hit me that, we need to do more to make this world a better place. So there's so much need. And, I'm so fortunate to be from America and to have not worry where my next meal is coming from. And Jana had been doing work in Bali with orphanages there. And so we said, let's find a promoter in Asia, and let's bring some of our speaker friends to Asia, and do a speaking tour and raise money for some of these causes in Asia. So we found some causes, and we had 6 on our first tour, and it was so fun. It served as a mastermind group. We raised some pretty decent money at the time. We thought it was good money, I guess, and it was such this model was so so impactful to us that we said, oh well, let's continue to do it. So we did another tour, and then we became a 501c3, a nonprofit organization based here in Colorado, since that's where I'm from. Partnered with another organization at the time. We became we used Give to Asia as a $1 billion organization that really follows the money trail, basically. So any money that we would give to these organizations, they would make sure that our projects got built or whatever, because we didn't really know we didn't know the landscape of the social enterprise and enough to make sure that really that the money that we raise, and we surely wanted to be fiscally responsible, would fall in the right hands. So we did that for a couple of years, and then we learned the landscape, and then now we do it on our own, and we have partners in every country, and we invest in champions, and we provide organizations that support, but they have to jump through a few hoops to make sure it happens, and total fiscal responsibility. We're religiously inclusive, and we have to have English-speaking leadership, and really a champion that we really feel their heart, that they're there to make sure that they're less fortunate get the skills they need to make the world a better place themselves. So,
so if our listener, if anyone wants to be part of this beautiful journey that you and Jenna has been developing and implementing, how could they take part of that?
Probably the best way to do that would be to send me an email, Scott@scottfriedman.net, and then we figure out what may make sense and where they're at, and so we could figure out some way to involve and maybe help with a tour or something.
Thanks for doing that meaningful project for Asia, and Scott, we appreciate it a lot. And I hope that our listeners out there, when they listen to this, that can help them to having the same, calling to take part of this beautiful journey with you and Jenna. Okay, I have a few last questions for this conversation. Okay, and my wife and I, like you and Jenna, you help the unfortunate girls to have the skills so that they can, they can take charge of their lives, right? My wife and I, for the last 4 years, we've been on the quest to help people to take charge of their life in different venue by improving their ability to think. Because that, to us, thinking is very important. And our ability to think these days has been diminishing for so many noises out there. So every opportunity like this, having this conversation, I will ask the same question. The question is, Scott, over the years, how have you been improved your ability to think?
Let me think for a minute on that. I'm improving my ability right now just by thinking about it. I think our thoughts, as we mature and we realize what our mission is in life, then our thinking hopefully becomes more strategic, but it's grounded in service for me. So I'm always looking to improve myself. I've gone to 38 straight national conventions for the National Speakers Association. So I think professional development, and especially in today with the age of AI, the game is changing, and we have to really be careful, because as you and I just talked about with this, like Suno.com is a great example. I mean, it makes it, here I used to write a lot of songs and spend a lot of time. Now you can put in 200 words and you get your own song, and you don't have to really think about it anymore. The calculator made us, we didn't have to do the flashcards. You had a calculator. Now we have MapQuest or Waze around the world, right, where we don't have to really think about where we're going. So it's so important today to make sure that we're continually learning and to dive into our thought process. But I through professional development and really, being an active listener. There's such a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing's a physical act, listening's a mental act, where to really actively listen, we listen to understand, and that you have to be a thinker in order to really be a good listener, because you have to interpret what the person is really saying, and what's the message behind what they're saying, or what's the intent.
Wow. Well, the next question, Scott, and thanks for sharing your secret of thinking. Okay, the next question is about the humor. because motivational humorist, right? And I think that in this busy world, we have so many things that distracting us to be having a little fun here and there. So how can I and the audience develop a little sense of humor like you have been having and keeping sharing it?
It starts with yourself. I mean, the highest form of humor is the ability to laugh at yourself. The lowest form of humor is making somebody else the target of a joke. But if you can laugh at yourself, in a sense, what you're saying is you accept your flaws and your foolishness and your imperfections, and then people can't laugh at you; they have to laugh with you. So it's really, I think that's the key, is to learn how to accept yourself, learn how to laugh at yourself. That's where it starts, because then it opens up your mind to looking for the humor around in life. You don't take life too seriously. So that's probably the you know number one mission, if you're looking for more humor in your life, is really, how do we enjoy life? You mentioned early, before we started the conversation, about me being the chief celebration officer. It's like, you want to celebrate life. You want to talk about what's good in life. And there's way too many opportunities to focus on what's not working and all the divisiveness that's happening in the world and the wars and whatever. I mean, if that's where we spend our time, then we're going to be fairly miserable. And that's why it's important to remember to celebrate life, we only have a certain amount of time on this earth. And so if we can take ourselves lightly, if we can find the humor in our situations. So first, it's finding the humor in ourselves and taking ourselves lightly, not beating ourselves up all the time. And then second is find the humor around us. If you look through the eyes of humor, if you look for what's funny about this or ironic, or then we find it. So we get what we focus on. And then our sense of humor develops. But, in my first book, it was called Using Humor for a Change. The premise of the book is the 1-minute humor break. So humor can be defined as pain, embarrassment, or stress, one for a distance by time. So if you look at what caused you stress or pain a year ago or 2 years ago, hopefully we can find some humor in that today. We can learn to laugh. But why do we need to wait? Why can't we change our emotional pattern while we're going through the stress? So that's the 1-minute humor break. So one example in the book is profanity with a twist, for example. So instead of when something causes you stress, sometimes we go, a swear word. Write down all of your favorite swear words on a piece of paper. Some people may need the back. And then you give each swear word a number, 1 through 30, 31 through 60. Next time something upsets you, and instead of screaming out the swear word, you just scream out the number. 3, 15, 7, shove a 2x4 up your 8. I've got your 11 right here. So you look for ways to, when we feel stress, is to change those emotional stress patterns. And we realize that stress is not an event. It's just a perception of an event, and we can use humor to color our perception of reality. And that's what we're really doing when we're using humor, is we're coloring our perception of reality. It's our reality. I mean, some people are terminally serious. Some people die at 50 and aren't buried until 90. So it really comes down to making a choice of what we want to focus on in our life. And if we look for the humor and we celebrate what's good, then we bring more of that into our life.
Beautiful, beautiful. Imagine if people can have that sense of humor in their lives, how the beautiful world would be, right? How it would become. Yeah. So Scott, the last question is about the future. Because if we travel the past already, we talk about the past, the present. It's not fair we don't talk about the future. So is there anything, any specific thing that you are focusing on that you want to share with us so that we can celebrate with you in advance?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. Yeah, I think, going back to the spirit of abundance, what can we do if, the quickest way to cheer you up or cheer me up is to cheer somebody else up. So really, as we focus on the future, it's let's find where our common ground is. Let's figure out a way to make each other's lives better. My legacy probably, and well, when I pass, is going to be together we can change the world, and the difference that I've helped to make in those that are less fortunate in Southeast Asia. So I think that the mission is find out what you're helping others to really learn how to think better so that they can make better choices in life and have better lives. I think we all need to figure out what it is for us. And as my life goes on, that's my future is going to be, how best to use AI really into furthering our mission. I've been playing with it in programs lately, and it's a lot of fun, and it's it's pretty powerful stuff. So it's how do we use it as a tool for good, and make other people's lives, including our own lives, better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Scott, share with us when you use that powerful technologies to improve the lives of others and how we can be part of that journey of learning and experimenting and growing together. Okay. And thanks a lot for being so nice and not to sleep over at night and to join our show and sharing your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, once again, I want to say thank you and wish you all the best with their upcoming events. And see you in November and see you in your cruise in October, in April of next year. Okay.
Fantastic. Look forward to collaborating in some way for good. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for asking me to be on the show. Been a pleasure.
Bye bye, my friend. Thank you.